The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star.
Well, happy Victory Monday, Cowboys Nation. We are joined here today by the one and only Christy Scales. We have Aisha Morrison as we are talking all things our 4-1 Dallas Cowboys who beat the Los Angeles Rams 22-10. Christy, we talked about this last week that we love talking on this Victory Monday. What is your initial reaction? Aisha, then we'll go to you. There's plenty to talk about, but how are you feeling after what we saw yesterday?
It was a Cowboys takeover at SoFi, and well over half of the 74,000 fans were Cowboys fans. And so it started the first series. Rams got the ball first, and they're having to use the silent count in the first series. And then late in the fourth quarter, when they still have a hope for a rally, and the Cowboy fans are chanting defense, defense.
Yep.
And along Cowboys radio, if someone were to tune in the game in progress and not know that the game were being played at SoFi and SoCal, you would have thought that it were at AT&T Stadium. So It was a fun atmosphere. It started off with a bang with Dorrance Armstrong's sack and forced fumble, and DeMarcus Lawrence with the fumble return for the touchdown, but it was pedal to the metal after that. So it was a great road trip, and I like these habits of these Victory Mondays.
It's nice. It's a good month full of Victory Mondays so far. Aisha, how are you feeling? What was your initial reaction after Sunday night, and how are you feeling today on this Victory Monday?
I just feel like Trayvon tweeted out like great team win, and it sounds so cliche, coming from these players, but at this point I really think that what you looking like that for? Oh no, my bad. No, but my bad.
Jazzy's talking to me about something very important.
I'm still learning. Leave me alone. But yes, I
same.
think that this team is just continuing to show us that they're the epitome of complimentary football. Like when you look back at how they're winning these games, 10 first downs by the offense is insane, man. Like when you think about that wholeheartedly, but you're getting something from every, facet of this team. And so I think the special teams play yesterday was intricate. I think that obviously what the defense did was important, but the Cowboys, the offense made plays when they needed to make plays. And I think that collectively they're really playing for each other. It's not always going to look pretty, but putting together wins in this way is remarkable because teams don't win without their starting quarterback, nor do they win consecutive games. It has to be a collective effort, and I think we're starting to see that every week at a more consistent basis at this point.
Sure, and so the reason I was making that face is because I really wanted to hype you guys up for the start of this Victory Monday, and we were supposed to go to this soundbite straight off the top, but Jazzy and I just got so excited. So Jazzy, if you will please let everybody know what D-Law had to say about Mike McCarthy's underdog comments and what he said post-win in the locker room.
Coach McCarthy, right. We never go into any situation thinking we're underdogs. We always know, we in it to win it. And, but being the underdog also, puts a fire underneath us, letting us know, we still have something to prove. So we take it.
All right. And so, again, apologies for that mishap there. But, ladies, I want to ask you. So, obviously, we're talking about complimentary football. That's something Mike McCarthy is very big on within this culture, within this locker room. A big part of that. And you hear those post-game interviews and press conferences, and you hear them saying all three phases. Now, something that's very incredible, I think, being in the position that the Cowboys are, is watching how the defense has really come to light. And we talked about this. We talked about how last season it ended and everyone was saying, man, how can they get any better than this? And it seems like every week since they have gotten better and better and better this season. And so, Christy, I want to ask you, you were on the sidelines during this game, and you always give us the best insight. What was the energy like on the sidelines? Because it was a bit of a roller coaster of a game with those emotions. So what was it like on the sidelines, and what were some of the things that you saw specifically when those defensive plays were happening and really throughout the game?
I'll take it back to D-Law since he was preaching in the locker room after the game, and he was preaching there in the second quarter. I'll give you the exact moment here. What had happened was
The 3rd and 17.
That's right.
Yes.
So what happened there? 9.5 minutes to go, and the Rams take a lead with that 75-yard touchdown catch and run by Cooper Kupp. And then the Cowboys offense answers. That's when Tony Pollard has the 57-yard touchdown run.
Yep.
Now, D-Law gathered up all of the defensive players, right in, what happens on the bench. The right side of the Cowboys bench is defense. The left side of the bench is offense. And so it goes from the middle in, closest to the Gatorade buckets in the middle, are the defensive backs, and then you have the linebackers, and then on the far end is the defensive linemen. Well, D-Law gathered them all up to talk to him because they had given up this touchdown. But it wasn't right when they came off after giving up the score. It was after Pollard's run, okay? But he brought him up, and I can't repeat a lot of the words because I don't know. My background is radio, but I assume that George Carlin's 7 words that you can't say on radio and TV also applies to podcasts, and especially to a family-friendly one like ours. But I think the way I described it for my article for Dallas Morning News was half fire and brimstone and half inspirational. But they weren't going to put up with any of that nonsense like that long touchdown catch. So it's really fun to see the dynamics. I've talked about it before. Every year to year, things change on the sideline because you have new players coming in, or you have different coaches, or some coaches are now on the sideline that used to be in the booth, and then you have these players that mature into their role as veteran leaders. And DeMarcus has been that for several years for the Cowboys. But it was just really fun to see him, take it upon himself to make sure that everyone was on the same page.
No, there's a standard. There's a new standard on the defensive side of the ball, and I saw it actually in the second quarter. It was 9-3. There was a 3rd and 17. You saw Tank come all the way from the line of scrimmage. He made the tackle that actually was a long 3rd down for the Rams, and they got more yardage on that play than I think Tank would have liked. And him and Anthony Barr are the guys who actually made the tackle. But he got up and immediately started, barking at the defensive linemen and stuff, because it's so weird. Like, this defense, they feel it seems like they almost feel disrespected when you score on them, or when people get a play on them. And I think that just speaks to what they want to be. And it's crazy because this defense has really been built. And when you look at what they did, especially with Dan Quinn coming in, I remember when Dan Quinn came in, and Joe Witt Jr. and Edwards, and I remember listening to their interviews, and they were all echoing the same things. Like, they were like, we want these guys to know what they're looking at so they can play fast. Their processing is adequate so they can go play fast and rally to the ball. And I think this year is what you're seeing. You're no longer in an install period. I think people forget that a lot of that defense last year was installed during a COVID year.
Right.
Cowboys had almost I think a 60% turnover in the locker room. You got new coordinators in here, and they were able to put together the year that they had, and with key starters out for the majority of the season. You didn't see Tank until the end of the year. You didn't see Neville until the end of the year. And this year, post-COVID, a full training camp, like a full rookie mini camp, all that stuff. I think that you're just seeing the development of guys. Like, you look at Dorrance Armstrong, you're like, we've been waiting and wondering, like, why are they keeping this guy around? But the things he brings for you on special teams, you've talked about it. You've talked about the timing and how milliseconds matter. And when you look at how he blocks these punts, his form is correct. Because you got to look at how many guys get the opportunity to block a punt and they hit the kicker.
Yeah.
They hit the kicker. They're getting penalties. They're getting flagged. But that also goes to me, like what Bones Fossil has put together on the special team side of the ball, to where you see guys thriving. They're also like a Kelvin Joseph. Like, I know we're going to get to everything else, but I think that it's interesting to see there's real coaching on this defensive side of the ball that's happening, because you're seeing improvement from guys that maybe you didn't expect to see improvement from. You better play from Anthony Brown. You look at, I think that Trayvon Diggs has even improved individually, but the coaching matters. Like what Al Harris is doing, Coach D, I don't want to mess up his name, Coach
Dirty.
Coach Dirty.
Yeah. Not like dirty laundry.
No, not
DURDE.
Yes.
Dirty.
So, Coach Dirty, what he's doing with this defensive line is impressive.
They're getting dirty.
Well, down and dirty. Okay.
Oh, that should be their name for the D line.
Okay,
is down and dirty.
They're getting down and dirty.
It's the new T-shirt. We should call.
You know what?
That's actually
merchandise
really
now.
catchy.
Called Cowboys merchandise.
But what he's doing with this defensive line, granted, Dan Quinn is pulling all the strings, but the development from these guys. Look at Oso Odigizua. I remember when Oso came in, I immediately thought, like, okay, this guy's going to eat up double teams. He's going to cause problems, whatever. But now he has this pass rush ability, and he got to put that on full display yesterday with them being compromised, with the Rams being compromised in the middle of that defensive line. I really think that I don't want to shortcome what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball and the development that it's taken to get there for certain positions in certain roles.
Yeah, the depth is just outstanding.
It's not the norm.
Yesterday they were playing without their starting defensive tackle Quentin Bohanna,
and you didn't.
Because of injury.
And then if you look at the tape, I mean, Carlos Watkins comes in, and you don't see a down tick, and that's what I'm saying. And you have Tristan Hill come in. A lot of people wrote him off. A lot of people didn't think this guy was going to make it. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I was one of those people, because I'm on the record saying that I thought he could make this defense and make this defense better. And I'm impressed with what I see from the defensive line. But imagine being an offensive coordinator and Micah Parsons goes off the field, and you're like, okay, we can breathe. We can get a couple plays in. And then Dan Quinn brings in Sam Williams to play a lot of the similar role that he plays. Talk about him. He had a great game.
Coach McCarthy spoke just a little earlier the press conference. He acknowledged that, yes, this is Sam Williams. He's the second-round pick, the rookie, that it's his best game so far. But it's also Sam's most extended playing time.
Yes.
And what happened was, remember early in the fourth quarter, it was at the 11:32 mark, and two players went down on the field, DeMarcus Lawrence and then the left guard, the offensive lineman for the Rams, who went into for a cognitive evaluation. They were checking him for a concussion. He didn't return to the game. And DeMarcus Lawrence, when he came to the sideline, he didn't get any more medical attention. But here's the thing. D-Law did not go back in the game and play those final couple of defensive series. And Coach McCarthy told us, not on air today, in the press conference, but the walk-off coming down the hall afterwards, he said that DeMarcus took a hit to the ribs. Actually, it was friendly fire. Sam Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence met at the quarterback. That's the defensive lineman. They say, meet you at the quarterback. Well, they met at
Literally.
Stafford. Stafford ducked down and Sam hit DeMarcus. But anyway, so that's the reason why DeMarcus was not in there for the end. It was the fewest snaps that DeMarcus has had so far this year. I believe he just played 38 of the 55. He played 36 of 55 defensive snaps, and Sam Williams had a season-high 25 snaps. But the thing about Sam Williams is he's tall, he's lean, and most defensive ends are like that. They're like Dorrance Armstrong, DeMarcus Lawrence, tall and skinny. But Williams, even though he's young and he hasn't had a full offseason of the conditioning program, he's got great strength. And so when they go to these NASCAR packages, that's their pass rush package, they can take Williams and slide him inside. So he can rush from the interior. So when DeMarcus is on the sideline in the fourth quarter, when you're really needing to dial up the pass rush, the fact that the rookie not only can step in and play for DeMarcus Lawrence, I'm not saying he's DeMarcus Lawrence, but can step in and take his role from rushing on the inside. What great versatility.
Absolutely.
Right. And you know what I think was very well put by Jerry Jones post-game was he said, they're playing at an inspirational level, obviously talking about the defense, saying that Dan Quinn is letting his best players play in the best spot that they are doing their best in. A lot of best there, but it makes sense. And that's why you have so much depth. You have so much versatility. This defense is setting the tone for this entire team. And really, it's just been incredible to watch. You listen to all of those post-game press conferences, and I love those because they give you such a good insight to how they're feeling, especially after a game like this. And Zeke was the first one to say, kudos to our defense. I mean, he was the first one to come out and talk about that. Tyler Smith talked about the defense, and so it was a beautiful game for Dan Quinn to get his flowers. And I tweeted this out. I don't want Dan Quinn to just get flowers. I want him to get the whole flower shop because he deserves it for what he has brought out in these guys. And I think a lot of it goes back to something that a lot of these players mention is the culture. This is a very, very thriving culture for the players right now. They all feel it. They all trust each other. They all hold each other accountable. And, it's a very special team. Yeah. It's a very special defense that I think goes without saying, and you see it. And you can tell they're connected, they're in it, they have each other's backs. I mean, it is amazing to see.
Yeah. And importantly, they accept their roles.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's tough in a professional team where everybody's got egos. I asked Coach McCarthy in the press conference a little earlier today about Anthony Barr. So he's he didn't join Cowboys training camp. He didn't join the Cowboys until the middle of training camp. He's this, multi-time Pro Bowler with the Minnesota Vikings, great linebacker, one of the faces of the franchise in Minnesota. He's like the guy, one of the guys for that franchise. And yet he comes to Dallas, he brings zero attention to himself.
Yep.
He's not, crowing in front of his locker trying to, get media attention. He's not playing nearly as much as he did in Minnesota. But McCarthy talked about his great professionalism and just, the great instincts that he has and what an impact player he is. But it's a really good example of a guy coming in, accepting his role, adding to the culture, and then when he gets his chances on the field, you mentioned the tackle on was it the screen pass that you mentioned?
Yes.
Anyway, so he's playing lights out.
Yeah.
And Vander Esch is having a good year too, much
I
better.
was about to say, we saw a lot of Vander Esch yesterday, and I think Anthony Barr was more of a silent killer because you look at the stats, he had 4 tackles and 2 assists, but what I really appreciate about the versatility within this defense is the stats don't always reflect the amount of impact that these players are having when you look back at it, because, Anthony Barr was mentioned a lot. I know we were watching, and I just kept seeing him just kind of fly by, and I'm like, Anthony Barr, you are getting my attention today. And I'm looking at these stats, and it doesn't reflect the same thing, but it's playing with impact, like you said. It's being an impactful player, opening up plays for other guys, right? Exactly. So I think that is so, so important to keep in mind when you're looking at stats. So, Jazzy, we're going to take it to break in a very special way today here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to go out to break with this clip of Zeke. We're going to talk more offense when we come back.
I mean, we go against that defense every day, and they're a handful, so I feel bad for those opposing offenses.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. Now, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference? Make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Welcome back to a Victory Monday edition of Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. But first, mark your calendar for the Fall Sip and Stroll in the Star District on Wednesday, October 12th from 6 to 9 p.m. Guests will enjoy sips from over a dozen participating restaurants and shops while enjoying live music, exclusive promotions, and a limited edition Tasking Glass. Even more than that. How exciting does that sound? Get your tickets for only $15 at thestardistrict.com. $15. That
is
sounds
really
great.
good deal.
That's a good deal for all of that.
For sure.
We love a good sip and stroll, especially at the Star. Beautiful place. But I wanted to mention this to you all because Todd Archer actually tweeted this out today saying, what does a 4-game winning streak mean for Dallas Cowboys history? Well, this is the 34th season that they have had at least one 4-game win streak. In the previous 33 seasons, they have made the playoffs 31 times. They missed the postseason 2011 and 1990. So, making history.
Past interference.
We love it. There's a little past interference for y'all to start off our second segment. So we ended the last segment with Zeke giving kudos there to the defense, saying, I don't want to be any opposing offenses that face them. But let's switch gears. Let's talk about the offense. Not so flashy with the stats when you look back. A bend but never break mentality, it seems like, with that offense. And just looking at these stats, it's kind of incredible, actually, because the passing yards that the Cowboys offense had, 76 passing yards. On the other side of the ball, Los Angeles had 285, but then you reverse that, right? Rushing yards, the Cowboys had 163 rushing yards, and then the Rams had 38 rushing yards. Talk about stopping the run, the Cowboys defense there. But ladies, I wanted to get your initial reaction on what we saw on the offense. The good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between. What has really improved these last couple of weeks specifically, and what still needs work? Christy, I'm going to start with you, and then we're going to jump to Aisha, because I know y'all have a lot to say.
Well, I would say the same thing as last week, that it wasn't pretty with the run game, but it was consistent. And the analogy I think I used last week was boxing, where you jab, body blows, and then the haymaker. And when we think of the haymaker, you're usually thinking of, we talked about play action pass setting up the big pass plays last week. Well, this time the haymaker was the 57-yard run by Tony Pollard, who was able to break a few arm tackles there. So kudos to Tony Pollard, who in his post-game comments was quick to credit the offensive line for opening a hole for him. But he did break a couple tackles after they opened that hole. So great job by him. But yeah, they were able to stay committed to the run. And that's what was really important. And even in the fourth quarter, they were able to run a lot of the clock as well. But, yeah, if you were to say Cooper Rush did not complete a pass to a tight end or to Zeke or Pollard, and that he only completed 10 passes overall, we would all think, or just first quarter, right?
Right.
But to get a win after that, what were you thinking about the passing game yesterday, Aisha?
Because I think everyone, I saw on Twitter, I feel a lot of people are kind of down about the offensive performance. And for me, I like that they are seeing what is working and just going with it. Mike McCarthy talked about that actually just a few minutes ago in his press conference. He used the word mandate. In regard to this being a defensive-minded team and him working with Kellen to keep that in mind. And I think that a lot of the run game has to do with what they're doing, like as far as defense. And I think that what they kind of have going on with TP and Zeke, I like it. I like it. It makes sense. And I understand, more people want to see TP. I think he did show some physicality yesterday. He dipped his shoulder a couple of times. But the way that they're doing it, where Zeke is the guy that really tires you out, and the change of pace with Tony Pollard, I think that's going to keep defenses on their heels, and I think that's something they should definitely continue. Now, I think with the offensive line, I got to talk about Conor McGovern. I gave him a long time, like last week, I gave him a hard time, and I think that he came in this game. You could see that obviously he got his legs under him, having a full week of practice, which it was important to me. But this guy came out and he really showed, I think, a lot of the reason why we were sitting here like, why is this not Tyler's job in training camp? Granted, I'm not saying who's better, but I do think that Conor McGovern has improved. And, you talked about that. Jess, like, players are allowed to get better, y'all.
Yeah.
They're allowed to get
Yes.
better. I think we forget about that. And I think Conor McGovern was one of the few offensive linemen that did have that many problems with Aaron Donald yesterday. I mean, they moved him around, put him on multiple guys. He gave Tyler, some fits. And I know we're going to talk about, Tyler and his resiliency, because I thought he played better in the second half and really adjusted to Aaron Donald and some of the stuff he was throwing at him. But I don't know. I think this offensive line is playing better than what I think people expected them to play. And also, I don't know. I think that we have to acknowledge that this offensive line still has room for improvement, but they're not nearly as bad as what I think we initially expected them to be at the beginning of the year.
Well, one thing that Coach McCarthy was talking about last week was the improved communication on the offensive line. That Tyler Biotish, the center, better job of communicating. But also, remember, you were talking about McGovern, Tyler Smith in training camp, and left guard, and Jason Peters coming in.
Yeah.
And so, and now you don't have Tyron Smith anymore at left tackle. Now it's Tyler Smith. So there have been so many moving parts on the left side of that offensive line that communication is a key for the offensive line. And one more point, I'm glad you brought up Conor McGovern, because he really fought through yesterday, and I don't just mean going against Aaron Donald and the Rams defensive line. Didn't know this till post-game afterwards, but he we know that he's had the ankle injury where he missed the game a couple of weeks ago. He was fighting through a bad elbow as well.
Wow.
So meaning that he didn't have the strength on the punch. So the punch would be when, you're coming off the snap of the ball and you engage, right into the defensive lineman's chest. And so imagine not having full strength to do that with your arm, and then of course you've got a gimpy ankle as well.
I'm a little shook by that because he's gonna need him.
Yeah, and I'm going back through the notes. We were talking about Tony Pollard's run, his 57-yard run for the touchdown. I actually wrote down here, Conor McGovern, great block on Aaron Donald. So playing with a little bit of a hurt arm or elbow, you said, that's incredible that he was able to make that block. You look back, that was just a beautiful block by him. Zach Martin also getting kudos with that block there. So something I wanted to mention, this ties back into, the O-line and the run game and how important that is. I just mentioned how stats don't reflect the importance of some players. I think Zeke is a perfect example of that, because you look back at yesterday's, stats. He had 22 carries, which I personally love to see, for 78 yards, averaging 3.5 yards with those carries. That doesn't say the importance he had in this game. Yeah. That does not reflect any of the importance he had, because with Zeke, when you allow him to not only establish the run and you pound, you get those 3 yards. I believe it was Tyler Smith in his post-game press conference that said, you just keep going.
People
keep
don't want to tackle him.
You get three of those, you have a first down, right?
Yes.
And he brings this force with him, and he wears down defenses. And I think that's so extremely overlooked when we're talking about Ezekiel Elliott, not to mention his pass pro and the amount of blocking that he does that is so important really for the entire game. So I wanted to mention that because I think it's very overlooked that total yardage in a game really doesn't matter as much as how much you're accumulating to shut down the defense with that short yardage and wear them out. I think Zeke is somebody who really had an impact in this game that I think goes a little bit overlooked, because you look at Tony Pollard's numbers and they're very flashy, right? He had 86 yards, averaging 10.8 yards a carry with only 8 touches on the ball. So you look at those, and it's back to your point of players can get better, but you can have a 2-for-1. You can have both Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. You don't have to pick between one or the other.
You need both of them.
You do.
But nobody told the Saints to pick when they had Kamara and what was the gentleman's name? Ingram. Nobody told them to pick.
Yes.
Nobody made them do that. And like you've talked about, like with the Cowboys, it's not a pick and choose thing. Zeke told TP, hey, man, get ready. Get ready to come out here and get me, man. And to me, I like that we're getting that commentary, because there's no who's this or who's doing that. They care about each other. They care about.
It's incredible. Zeke or Tony Pollard coming off of what we learned was a stomach illness.
Oh yeah, he said he was
his
fatigued,
week,
right?
Yeah,
and
stomach flu.
And I'm like, guys, to play with the post-stomach flu and to put up those numbers, incredible. So I'm giving flowers to both Zeke and Tony Pollard today, because they are a dynamic duo. Keyword there, duo. Both of them are so important for different reasons. And it just, it irks me to see the discussion coming up of, oh, who's running back one. It doesn't matter because we need both of them, really. You need both of them.
It only matters to fantasy football players.
There
and
you go.
That's why I hate fantasy football.
I'm
It's
right
the
there with
bane
you,
of
Christy.
existence.
I don't play.
I hate fantasy football
I'm right
because
there with you.
what happens is people root for individuals instead of for their favorite team or whatever.
Yeah.
And it goes to your point, Jess, of a player's value cannot be determined by stats alone. But I'm just so glad that you're giving Zeke the kudos because he's such an unselfish player. He has one of the highest football IQs that you'll ever see. He's very unselfish, and he's willing to do the dirty work. And it goes back to one thing that Jason Garrett said, who was head coach, obviously, when Zeke was brought in. He says, I've never seen a guy that's better off the ball than Zeke Elliott. And that's not just pass protection, but we saw what happened yesterday when Zeke wasn't there and that one, the blitz, Pollard didn't identify it, and Cooper Rush got crushed from the backside. I don't know how he was unable. He avoided a fumble there. I can't believe he held on to that ball.
Yes.
But Zeke is a special player, and to be the superstar that he is, and yet he's the one that's promoting Pollard in the media and to all the fans and
that
stuff.
goes along
That's
with the
special.
culture. That's the culture that we're talking about too, right? And we talked about this even with Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott with what that situation is looking like. And so let's switch from the run game to the pass game.
Absolutely.
Just taking a quick look there. Something I wanted to ask you guys, and I was very anxious to see what both of y'all were going to answer to this question, was the dropped passes with Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb. Is that something that is concerning to either of you? Do you think it's just like a little bit of a mishap there? What were your initial thoughts? And do you think that those drops could have potentially changed the outcome of the game?
No, absolutely, because they're on third down.
There you go.
And they were both like when you're playing with a backup quarterback and he gives you a good ball, you got to make the best out of it. Because actually some of those two drops were, to me, some of Cooper Rush's better throws in this game. And when he's putting that zip on that ball, trying to give these guys a chance, especially when you start talking about like the lack of big plays yesterday, they're going to have to capitalize. I was definitely disappointed in the drops. They were hard on each other about the drops. It looks like I would wonder what the energy was like after on the sideline with the drops. But the receiver core, I felt like, could have did a better job yesterday helping out their quarterback from different levels. Granted, they were very active in blocking. We've seen the receiver core be active there. But as far as receiving yesterday, I think they could have did a better job, coming back to the quarterback when he was scrambling, coming to help him out. I think a lot of it was the fact that this game plan looked like it was centered around running the ball a lot. So then you are going to have guys cold. You're going to have guys, it's no excuse. They just got to stay interested. They got to stay in phase. They got to stay in the game, even though they know the ball's not coming to them. And that's it's a maturity thing. It's something that happens. But yeah, they're going to have to grab those balls when they come to them.
Yeah. Christy, what was the feeling like after both of those two drops on the sideline?
Yeah, it's funny because I think that people think on the sideline that the coaches yell at players for messing up.
No.
Right.
And
That's
it's just
not
the
the case.
opposite. It's more picking people up. Because there's no one harder on CeeDee Lamb for dropping a ball than CeeDee.
Right.
There's no one harder on Michael Gallup for dropping a ball than Michael Gallup. And then Michael comes back later and makes that awesome catch down the right sideline. How he got his feet in. Oh. Incredible catch.
Yep.
But I think Aisha's best point in all that is that it happens on third down. And the Cowboys offense has got to improve on third down. You can't be between 30 and 33% for the season. And when you talk about complementary football, this Cowboys offense needs to help its defense.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolute.
Go ahead, Christy,
towards the end, they were able to possess the ball. Again, we talked about staying steady with the run, committed to the run. They were able to convert some of those first downs there in the fourth quarter and able to run more of the clock. But you can't rely on the defense to give up just one touchdown a game.
Exactly.
For more than a few games.
Right.
Now, I know that it's happened for 5 games now,
Yep, 5
but
games.
that's not reasonable. And I know we're going to talk about special teams in just a little bit, but yesterday special teams giveth and special teams taketh away.
Sure did.
So there were some positives and some negatives, which we'll talk about. But but going back to your point about the drops and what happens with teammates and coaches on the sideline, it's just the opposite. It's not like people don't yell at each other on the sideline. Generally, it's more encouragement. And when I talked earlier about DeMarcus Lawrence, a little hellfire and brimstone, but it was also mixed with encouragement and motivation.
Yeah. And you're talking about third down efficiency. The Cowboys were 5 out of 15 with that.
Yeah, 33%. That just
They were 5 for 15 the week before, if I'm not mistaken.
You don't want to be consistent in that. That needs to improve.
Yeah. And you also don't want to be consistent with penalties. Guys, you knew it was coming from me. But, what I have seen is the discipline with the penalties. They were coming from pretty reasonable things. I mean, you had Tyler Smith with the 2 holding penalties. Look, I will give him the pass because he was going against a very, very tough challenge. And that just minimizes Aaron Donald, right? Like, that minimizes what Tyler Smith was having to do. But to your point, Christy, too, is the run game is important to establish, and we just talked about why, but that opens up for the pass game and the play action that is so important. And I feel like sometimes the offense gets the run game established. Cool. It's established. We're there. Now you have to be open up. You have to be open up for that passing game to really continue, and you have to just start with the basics, which is catching the ball when it's catchable. And I looked back at both of those drops from both CD and Michael Gallup. They were catchable, and it was frustrating. I'm glad it didn't deter the game. And yes, that to your point, they have to be better on those third downs overall. But what I really liked about your circle back to the sideline was we heard CD talk about how he was so hard on himself. What game did he have the drop recently?
It was what
was it
2 weeks
2
ago?
weeks ago,
Yeah.
right? And he talked about how it was eating him alive with that game, and he came back and he made a play. What I really appreciate about this team is the accountability, and you have the accountability to the guy next to you, but you also have the accountability within yourself to come back and make it a play. So it's frustrating, I think, especially at the time, but you also have that mentality of, all right, I'm going to do it again, and something that Tyler Smith actually talked about during the game and what he learned was very interesting, and I think it ties in perfectly. Jazzy, do we have that soundbite?
You just got to be resilient. Like, you in that snap that you fail, like, you can't change the game anymore on that snap. You gotta look to that next snap, and you got to hone in on the technique. You don't fall to the level of your training every time. That's something I feel like I had to do today for sure.
He's wise beyond his years.
Yes, definitely.
Than Tyler Smith, yeah.
And I think that's the perfect way to end this segment here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by the Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be back to talk about special teams and some team MVPs. You don't want to miss it.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. Now, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference? Make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
With Smoothie King's original Angel Food and new Angel Food Slim without added sugar, you no longer have to choose between treating yourself and hitting your goals this summer. You don't have to choose between great taste and feeling great. Because at Smoothie King, every blend is made with whole fruits and no syrups, so you can satisfy your cravings without compromise. The only choice you will need to make is which one is best for you. Try our classic Angel Food or the new Angel Food Slim, blended without added sugar. Smoothie King, rule the day.
Welcome back to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. But first, let's talk about single game tickets. Everybody, how exciting. Limited tickets are remaining for the home games of the 2022 Dallas Cowboys season at AT&T Stadium, and they are available now. Visit DallasCowboys.com/tickets or SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing partner of AT&T Stadium. I just want to say, everybody, please go to these games, be loud, because this game proves just how much of an advantage, even if it's an away game, that home field advantage can be when everybody's nice and loud. And Christy said she was feeling it on the sidelines.
Absolutely.
So,
and you know,
go.
one of the things that I love to do, especially for away games, is all throughout the week, I go to SeatGeek.com.
Yeah.
Not just because they're our partner with the Dallas Cowboys, but I'm always curious as to the resale value of tickets because wherever the Cowboys go, the prices go up. So for this Philly game, Philly being 5-0 and the Cowboys 4-1,
Great
guess
game.
The cheapest ticket right now on SeatGeek.com a week away is $340, and that's in the corner of the upper deck. Now, for L.A., yesterday, SoFi Stadium, all week long, they have a standing room only in the 400 level and one at the 500 level. Those were $220 and up.
Wow.
For the standing room only.
Wow.
Now, you're saying, it's L.A., everything's expensive in L.A. Well, that's true, but the Rams host Carolina this weekend, who fired their coach today, by the way. Matt Rule got fired by the Panthers. But anyway, but the same standing room only ticket for Rams Panthers is $50 resale. So $50, $220. $220 was cheap. I mean, those standing room only. Some people were asking for $400 for it. But anyway, it's going to be crazy because the Philadelphia tickets, those at the end of last week were like in the 140 or 160 range, and then Philly wins, the Cowboys win, and now it's over $110 higher.
That is going to be.
Then that's for the cheap. That's the
game.
cheap section.
You're going to have to catch me at the tailgate because.
So my favorite tailgate story for Philly, I love going to Philly, but now since they've been in the Lincoln Financial Field, they kind of lose some of that home field because Veterans Stadium was an armpit. Oh, was it awful? It was terrible. Nobody wanted to go there. Nobody wanted to go there.
I love that. Christy, I'm going to use that.
Yeah, it's an armpit.
That sounds so bad.
And so, but anyway. So Brian brought us, with the Cowboys radio, longtime Cowboy scout. He's on Cowboys podcast. He worked for the Eagles, right, for years. Jesus. Yeah, in the scouting department. Well, their offices were there inside old Veterans Stadium. And so he tells the story one time of he hears this scream from the secretary, like this blood-curdling scream, and it was well known that there were lots of rats at Veterans Stadium, but when one fell through the roof onto the assistant's desk is when. No. But anyway, my favorite tailgating story, it's very good tailgating up there. And so it was the first game with Terrell Owens as a Dallas Cowboy. Okay, remember he had played for the Eagles and got his way out, the thing on the driveway there in Philly, and he worked his way out from the Eagles. So anyway, the first game that he was back there, the local radio station, and it is a boys talk, sports talk, very rough and tumble. And they had a thing, it was in conjunction with the local funeral home, and you were to bring your Terrell Owens Eagles jerseys.
Bye.
And they had
so
coffins set up, and you set your Eagles TO jersey in the coffin.
That is petty.
Yes. And of course, they said they were going to bury them, but I know that they donated them to third world countries. So somewhere in some third, fourth, or fifth world country, there's little kids running around now with TO Eagles jerseys. But anyway, I actually bought two. What do you call it when they're not officially licensed to bootleg T-shirts, white with green letters, and it said you can't spell idiot without T-O.
Barnacles.
Oh my gosh!
I got it somewhere.
Nah, it's gonna be crazy.
If I can find it, I'll bring it later in the week.
Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting week. But real quick, before we run out of time, ladies, we're gonna go around. Christy, I'm gonna start with you. Your MVP and who shocked you the most during this game?
Dorrance Armstrong for his contributions, defense, and special teams. And who shocked me the most? Matt Overton, the long snapper. I was so shocked that his very first deep snap, he went early and it bounced off of Brian Anger, the holder. So the timing was off on that, and I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
That was good.
Wasn't prepared for that. All right, so my what? Say it again.
Your MVP, and then who shocked you the most? It could be the same person, but if you want to, you can have a bonus player.
Nah, my MVP is Conor McGovern. I ain't changing it. I think a lot of what you got in the run game, you don't get without him. And who shocked me?
Yeah, good, bad, ugly.
Yeah, good or bad. I guess mine was bad shock. I didn't know. Was it supposed to be good?
I think it shocked all of us. So that's fair.
Okay. Who shocked me? I'm stressed out. Say yours. Say yours.
Okay. My MVP, I'm going to go with Tony Pollard because he's fighting a stomach illness this week, and he comes out and he makes the Cowboys' only touchdown of the game. Love that for him. Who shocked me the most? Also, Tony Pollard, because he was coming off of this stomach issue. And during the week, we're just saying illness. But I think anytime a player can come out and be impactful post-illness, post-injury, that's great. It didn't necessarily shock me. I figured he would be key, but only getting 8 touches and being that impactful, go Tony Pollard. Have your flowers. All right. Do you have your most shocking?
Yeah, all right. So it's not really a shocker, but I'm sorry, guys. Micah, I think coming in after that groin injury, I was one of the people that was like, y'all, please get him off the field. Like, you could tell he was hampered. And listening to his interview after, I think that's what shocked me, is that he has such a divine competitive nature that he just won't be denied. And I think that he really does set the precedence for what this defense does. And I'm not going to say him playing through injury the way that he played shocked me. I think the result of it is what shocked me because it's not normal like what he is doing. And for us to see him physically hampered every week and still pushing, I think it really it should inspire the rest of this team to play better as well. So there you go.
Beautiful. And real quick before we go, just a reminder that today is World Mental Health Day. So please take care of yourself, take care of those around you, and remember it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to ask for help whenever you need it. And we are all here supporting everybody. We love you guys and we appreciate you so much. So thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Go enjoy the rest of your Victory Monday, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.